When Saturn is in the zodiac sign of Aries, this grants the native a totality of raw instinctual power. Saturn in the natal chart is going to represent karma, authority, and as such, these natives' authority is attained by everything that they achieve independent. This borrows from, of course, the individual nature of Aries, and as we will discuss through the series, Saturn through the first 4 signs is going to represent work ethic, achievement, and authority that is individually established. This is a little different from, let's say, a Saturn in Capricorn who has collective authority over a whole universal structure, like the previous president Barack Obama, who had Saturn in Capricorn. But the current president, President Trump, who has Saturn in Cancer, who wants to focus more on this authority independently to bring America back to a more, nationally based America first country. We'll go more into that in future videos. But Saturn in Aries is the first raw element of authority here. We see the most relevant generation to have this be born from 95 to 98. So you guys will get a special video when I do the Saturn documentary. That being said, congrats to those of you who are coming into your Saturn return. You guys are here to create the new world. But back to the topic, Saturn in Aries, given the fire sign nature of Aries and putting a disciplined, limiting planet that is quite restrictive, this could cause these natives to be very impatient when it comes to teaching or when it comes to, giving orders to people. Even if they're the most patient people, Saturn in Aries will make them impatient, but it can lend an attribute to perhaps barking orders, wanting people to get things quick, because for the Saturn in Aries, they put themselves to the same fire. And whereas Saturn in the zodiac chart will show you where anxiety over success may come through, Saturn in Aries natives could really have the bad habit of beating themselves up because they have not achieved success in an unrealistic quick time that is not necessarily normal to do in a certain sense. So y'all don't necessarily need to beat up yourselves up for that. Allow yourselves to pace yourself. Just because you didn't accomplish something in 2 weeks doesn't mean that you're a failure. Another thing that's very important, what we will be discussing in this series is the totality. Wherever you have Saturn in your chart, not only bestows authority, but what you have the totality of. And like we mentioned in the beginning of the video, it harnesses a capability to come into the fullness of one's authenticity and as such, their identity. And the reason why that's very significant is these are beings who are very serious about who they are. All right, Saturn is going to bring seriousness regardless, but this is hyper focused on how they express who they are and how much more gravity comes into their name and their face. They don't play with that. Wherever Saturn is, you don't play with that. All right. Other than that, as far as integrity, these people appreciate integrity in the name. They appreciate integrity in one's identity. They will respect someone who takes themselves seriously. I don't take myself seriously that much, but I got Saturn in Capricorn, so it's a different type of serious. That being said, very dynamic placement, borrowing its cardinal nature, it adds a lot of potency and force relative to what you do, but it can limit that instinctual nature in an effort to build it through discipline more powerfully. So given its fall position, it does has a bad rap, but it is actually a pretty raw and dynamic Saturn placement. Comment down below your comments, experiences, and I'll catch you on the next video. Of course, the one before 90s was like 71, 73, but we'll go into the generations in a different video. Catch you next time.